Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hope you guys are having a great Thursday. The Stanley Cup playoffs starts this month. We are 2 weeks away from playoff hockey. There's only 2 weeks left in the regular season. Regular season ends on April 16th, and the Stanley Cup playoffs start on April 18th. This is not an April Fool's joke. April Fool's was yesterday, but this is the business side. We are getting down to business. We are getting closer and closer to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I can't wait for it. Lots of playoff implications on the way for these last 2 weeks of the NHL season. So we are not going to waste any time. We are going to go ahead and get started into the NHL news for today. So the Vancouver Canucks, they hold off the Colorado Avalanche with a 8-6 win in Denver on Wednesday. And with the win, they improved to 22-44-8 of the season. Now, my thoughts of this when I reacted to this game, my thoughts on this game, this was the complete opposite of what I was expecting. Because you got the bottom team in the NHL versus the top team in the NHL. And normally you would think the Avalanche, since they're the top team in the NHL, will come out on top with the win. But it turns out it was the opposite of that, as the Vancouver Canucks have scored those 2 late goals. They actually led 6-2 in this game, and they blew a 4-goal lead. Avalanche were able to come back and tie it, but the Canucks got away with it with those 2 late goals in the third period. And Brock Boeser finished the game off with a hat trick, his 7th career hat trick, by the way. He also had an assist for a 4-point night. So, I mean, I was shocked at this game, man. I was shocked at the ending. This was an upset win almost by the Vancouver Canucks. This was an upset win by them. I mean, they're eliminated from the playoffs. They're last in the league. They don't have a good team. And then they somehow, some way, find a way to beat the top team in the NHL. Out of all the teams that you could beat in the NHL, it had to be the Colorado Avalanche. That is crazy. That is crazy. Like I said, I'm running out of words for this game. But yeah, I was shocked at the ending. You could have had any other team. You could have had the Calgary Flames. You could have had the New York Rangers. You could have had the Chicago Blackhawks. You could have had the Toronto Maple Leafs, Florida Panthers. And I'm saying Florida Panthers because right now they're not doing as well, shockingly. But anyways, you could have had any one of those teams to beat and come out with the win, which you be the last team in the league. But none of those teams were in there. It was the Colorado Avalanche that they beat. But yeah, they ended a 6-game losing skid in the process. Brock Boeser, again, like I said, he had a hat trick in the game. Also had an assist for a 4-point night. Teddy Bluger, he scored twice in the win. Marcus Pettersson, he had a goal and 2 assists for a 3-point night. And then Max Sasson had a goal and assist for a 2-point night. And then Jake DeBrusk scored for Vancouver. So, yeah, I'm still shocked at this. And you won't believe the goaltender that was in net for this one. Kevin Lankinen. Kevin Lankinen was in net for this one. He made 24 saves and 30 shots facing net. Phil Thatcher Demko, maybe this, I don't know. It's just the Canucks as a whole. They suck. They suck. Let's just face it. They suck. That's why they're last in the league, and that's why they've been eliminated from playoff contention. They suck. But maybe Thatcher Demko could have bailed them out if he was in there. I can probably see it that way, but most of my brain is saying no matter who was in there, this team probably could have came out with the L, but it turns out they didn't. So, yeah, I'm still surprised at what I saw. But what I'm not surprised about is Nathan MacKinnon, Nate Mac, picked up his 50th goal this season. He scored in the Avalanche's 8-6 loss to the Vancouver Canucks. And this is the second time in his NHL career that he has hit 50 goals. He had 51 goals back in the 2023-24 season. And fun fact, Nathan MacKinnon became the third player in Avalanche Quebec Nordiques franchise history to record multiple 50-goal seasons, joining Michael Goulet, who had 4 50-goal seasons, and the great Joe Sakic, who had 2 50-goal seasons. Oh, man, sorry. He had 2 50-goal seasons. And then another fun fact, Nathan MacKinnon became the fastest player in Avalanche team history to record 50 goals in a season, doing so in 73 games. I mean, once you read about this, it's not really surprising almost, because let's take a look at the stats right now. See, when you got Nate Dogg, you already know that he's going to be top 3, top 5 in goal scoring, top 5 in point scoring. Right now, Nate Dogg is tied for second in point scoring among NHL players. When you think of guys like Nathan MacKinnon, Connor McDavid, Nikita Kucherov, David Pastrnak, you're thinking the big top players. They're going to be top 5 in point scoring. Some of those guys are going to be top 3, top 5 in goal scoring. So to me, Nathan MacKinnon hitting the 50-goal mark, especially since he's done it before, it didn't come out as a surprise. Knew that this was coming. We knew that this was coming. And Cole Caulfield, he is second behind Nathan MacKinnon with 47 goals. So I'm hoping that he can take home the Rocket Richard this season. Like I said, only 2 weeks left in the regular season. So there's still time for Cole Caulfield, one of my favorite players to watch, to catch Nathan MacKinnon, maybe get to 60 goals. That probably might be overreaction, but we'll see what happens. But maybe he can get to 60 goals before the season is over and then take home the Rocket Richard. I mean, come on, this is Mr. Saturday Night we're talking about here, even though that today's Thursday. But he seems to come up clutch every Saturday night. So when Saturday's on, Hockey Night in Canada, Cole Caulfield is going to score a goal at least most of the time. And then sometimes on other days, but we'll see. Sam Malinsky, he scored twice for the Avalanche in this one. Gabriel Landeskog, Parker Kelly, and Brent Burns also scored for the Avalanche. Mackenzie Blackwood allowed 6 goals on 19 shots faced in net, and so he was replaced by Scott Wedgwood with 4 minutes and 39 seconds remaining in the second period, in which he made 5 saves in relief. But with this loss, the Avalanche dropped to 49, 15, and 10 this season. But it's not that bad once you think about it, because, again, you're still the top team in the league, despite losing to the bottom team in the league. You already clinched the playoffs. You're first in the Western Conference. You're first in the Central Division. Avalanche are 8 points ahead of the Dallas Stars for first place in the Central Division. So it's not all too bad once you think about it, but at the same time, it's a little bit embarrassing to lose to the bottom team in the league. And as I'm talking about this, I'm currently wearing an Avalanche hat and a Cale Makar shirt. Cale Makar is one of my favorite players, or I probably should say my favorite player to watch on the Colorado Avalanche. But speaking of the Avalanche, speaking of the Stars, speaking of the Central Division, the Avalanche will head to Big D, Dallas, Texas to take on the Stars on Saturday at 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time. This will air on ABC and ESPN+. This is part of a back-to-back set as they return home to Sunday for a home-to-home series against the St. Louis Blues at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, and that game will air on ESPN for you guys to watch. Speaking of rivalry showdowns, let's go out to the Bay Area, San Jose, California. The Sharks, they hold off their California rivals, the Anaheim Ducks, with a 4-3 win on Wednesday. And with the win, San Jose improves to 35-31-7 in the season. They extend their win streak to 3 games, and as you take a look at the standings, they are 1 point behind the LA Kings, another California team, for second place wild card spot. Points are necessary at this time of the year, and we're already in April. You can't be affording to losing some of these games. But Macklin Celebrini, the Mac Attack, Big Mac, he had 2 goals and 2 assists for a 4.9. He's up to 105 points of the season, and he passes Erik Karlsson for second most points in Sharks history behind Jumbo Joe Thornton, who had 114 2006-07 season. And it's kind of funny once you think about it, because Macklin Celebrini, when he got drafted by the Sharks in the 2024 NHL draft, he lived with Joe Thornton in his rookie year. In his rookie year, he lived with Joe Thornton. Like, Joe Thornton let him stay at his house, and now he's closer to passing this mark for most points in Sharks history in a season. So, like I said, it's funny when you think about it. He's up to 40 goals in the season. He's up to 65 in his career. He continues to put up marks, and he has 65 assists this year, passing Sidney Crosby and Brian Trottier for the 3rd most by a teenager in a single season. And only Wayne Gretzky and Sidney Crosby have more. Of course, Wayne Gretzky, the great one, he had 86 assists in the 1979-80 season. Like I talked about before, on and off air, the 1979-80 season for Wayne Gretzky, it was his first season in the NHL. And then Gordie Howe, player he grew up watching, he retired from the NHL that year. I think he went to play in the I think he was already playing in the WHA before he came to the NHL, or maybe he retired from the NHL and played in the WHA. But I know he's played in the WHA before, which, to those who don't know what that stands for World Hockey Association. So Gordie Howe played in the WHA, Bobby Hull played in the WHA, and I think that league was competing with the NHL back then as well. They were around for 7 years. Like I said, it was competing with the NHL. It was competing with the NHL. They had players from, like, over there, like I said, Gordie Howe played in WHA, Bobby Hull played in the WHA. So it was around from 1972 to 1979. Anyways, 4.9 for Macklin Celebrini. Continues to put up marks in his second season in the NHL. His buddy, the Fresh Prince, Will Smith, he had a goal and 2 assists for a 3-point night. Alexander Wennberg had the game-winning goal in this game for the San Jose Sharks, scoring with 31 seconds remaining in the third period. And the Mac Attack, Big Mac, Macklin Celebrini, he had 1 assist on the game-winning goal, setting up Wennberg for the game-winning goal for the Sharks. Huge 2 points for them. Yaroslav Askarov made 28 saves on 31 shots faced the net. And for the Anaheim Ducks, Alex Killorn. Still kind of funny is to see him on the Anaheim Ducks, considering all the years that he's played for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I still kind of find it odd to see him on the Ducks. But anyways, Alex Killorn, Troy Terry, and Ryan Paley scored for the Ducks in this one. Drew Helleson had 2 assists in the loss, while Lucas Dahlstall made 17 saves on 21 shots faced the net. And Anaheim has lost 3 straight games, and they dropped to 41-29-5 of the season. But don't panic, Anaheim Ducks fans. You're still in first place in the Pacific Division. You're still in the playoff spot, just 2 points ahead of the Edmonton Oilers. That's kind of part that you would hate. It's you would, Ducks fan. That's kind of part that you do hate. Like, that Pacific Division is so tight. Like, you got the Ducks in first with 87 points. You got the Oilers, who are trying to make it to the Stanley Cup final for the 3rd year in a row, second place with 85 points. And then you got the Golden Knights with 82 points. And then behind them, you got the LA Kings with 78 points. Sharks with 77, and then Kraken with 75. So it's kind of tight in the Pacific Division, but it is what it is. Like I said, can't be afforded to lose some of these games. You got to win these games at this point of the year. So we'll see if Anaheim can get a huge win over the St. Louis Blues on Friday as they return home for a 5-game homestand against them on Friday at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Blues are another team that's trying to still stay in that playoff mix. So that's going to be a huge 2 points for both teams. The Sharks continue their 6-game homestand against the Toronto Maple Leafs on Thursday at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time, looking to get a huge 2 points over the Austin Matthews-less Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but Austin Matthews is out for the remainder of the season for the Leafs after that neon hit from Racco Gudis. But speaking of the Blues and like teams and stuff, we got another game that happened yesterday. Trevor Moore with the overtime game-winning goal as the LA Kings win 2-1 in overtime over the St. Louis Blues on Wednesday. Trevor Moore scored a minute and 56 seconds into overtime. And believe it or not, that's his first career overtime goal. His first career overtime goal in this one. Kind of crazy to think about. But anyways, with the win, the Kings improved to 30, 26, and 18 this season. Huge 2 points for them as they are now in second place of the Western Conference wildcard spot with 78 points, and they're 1 point behind their California division rivals, the San Jose Sharks and the Nashville Predators for second place wildcard spot. Those two teams actually played today, by the way. Predators and Kings. Kings in the second wildcard spot. Predators trying to get back to where they were. So, like I say, it can't be afforded to lose these games at this time of the year. But anyways, like I said, huge 2 points for the Kings, especially after their 6-2 loss at home to the Mammoth on Saturday, a team that they are behind for first place wildcard spot. They lost 6 of their last 8 games heading into this one. So it's a good thing that they got the win and the extra point. Adrian Kempe had the other goal for the LA Kings, while Anton Forsberg made 23 saves on 24 shots faced in net. And for the St. Louis Blues, Robert Thomas scored the lone goal for them. He had the game-time goal with 3 minutes and 53 seconds remaining in the third period. Jordan Binnington, he made 24 saves on 26 shots faced in net. And the Blues, they have lost 2 straight games. They have points in 4 of their last 5 games, and they dropped to 31, 31, and 12 of the season. So they're still at 500, 4 points out of a playoff spot. As a Blackhawks fan, it pains me to see that the Blues are above the Blackhawks in the Central Division standings, considering how much I hate the St. Louis Blues. But they are doing very well than the Chicago Blackhawks, unfortunately. But hey, at least we're going to get Gavin McKenna. So, yeah, all part of the plan, almost, when you think about it. And come next season, we're going to be a dangerous young team to watch, believe it or not. So I still believe in the Blackhawks' future and their rebuild that Kyle Davidson is planning. But like I said, as a Blackhawks fan, it just pains me to see that the Blues are doing very well than the Blackhawks are, and they're above them in the Central Division. Blues continue their 4-game road trip on Friday against the Anaheim Ducks at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Kings continue their 7-game homestand in a critical and big game against the Nashville Predators today at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. All right, now let's get to some Stanley Cup playoff scenarios for April the 2nd. So, today, we'll start with the Eastern Conference because, like I said, there's going to be a lot of playoff implications during these final 2 weeks of the regular season. We'll start with the Eastern Conference first. The Buffalo Sabres will clinch a playoff spot if, that is a strong if they defeat the Ottawa Senators in any fashion, or they get at least 1 point against the Senators and the Philadelphia Flyers defeat the Detroit Red Wings in any fashion, and the Carolina Hurricanes defeat the Columbus Blue Jackets in any fashion. And speaking of the Carolina Hurricanes, they have the chance to clinch a playoff berth today if they defeat the Columbus Blue Jackets in any fashion, or if they get at least 1 point against the Blue Jackets and the Flyers defeat the Red Wings in any fashion. And the Sabres defeat the Senators in regulation. Tampa Bay Lightning. I have a friend who's a huge Tampa Bay Lightning fan. Hopefully they get the job done. They will clinch their playoff berth today if they defeat the Pittsburgh Penguins in regulation and all the following occur. The Flyers defeat the Red Wings in regulation. The Hurricanes defeat the Blue Jackets in regulation. And the Sabres defeat the Senators in any fashion. Or if they defeat the Penguins in overtime or shootout and all the following occur. The Flyers defeat the Red Wings in regulation. The Hurricanes defeat the Blue Jackets in regulation. And the Sabres defeat the Senators in regulation. Moving on to the Western Conference side. The Minnesota Wild. And as a Blackhawks fan, hopefully they can clinch the playoffs and get it done. I'm cheering for Nick Foligno, former captain of the Chicago Blackhawks. Wishing nothing but the best of the Minnesota Wild. And, of course, Quinn Hughes, since he is another one of my favorite players to watch. Team USA Olympic gold medalist. But anyways, the Minnesota Wild will clinch a playoff berth today if they get at least 1 point against the Vancouver Canucks, Quinn Hughes' former team. Or if the Chicago Blackhawks defeat the Edmonton Oilers in the Connor Bowl in regulation, and the Toronto Maple Leafs defeat the San Jose Sharks in any fashion, and the Calgary Flames defeat the Vegas Golden Knights in regulation. Or if the Maple Leafs defeat the Sharks in regulation, or with any, and I mean any result from the LA Kings Nashville Predators game other than a Kings regulation win. And that's going to be a critical game between both teams, and both teams are near a playoff spot. One of them is already in a playoff spot. One of them just 1 point out of a playoff spot. We'll see what happens in that game between the Predators and Kings. NHL games on the slate for today. We had 3 games on the slate for yesterday. There's going to be a whopping 14-game slate for today. Lots of important games to keep an eye on. And we will talk about them all right now. So 14 games on the slate for today, starting with the Buffalo Sabres and the Ottawa Senators at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Sabres with the chance to clinch the playoffs for the first time in who knows so long. I think it's first time since 2010, 2011. They have the chance to end their long year playoff drought with a win over the Ottawa Senators, and any of the following things that I just mentioned to you guys occurred. They got the chance to do it today when they take on Brady Tkachuk and the Ottawa Senators at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Followed by Pittsburgh Penguins in Tampa Bay taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got an Atlantic Division showdown, a playoff rematch showdown, as you like, between the Boston Bruins and Florida Panthers at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. One of those teams is in I think it's in a playoff spot. I know the Panthers aren't, surprisingly. The Bruins are in the playoff spot. 94 points. Wild card spot. Panthers, near the bottom of the Eastern Conference. So we'll see if the Bruins can get a huge 2 points over the 2-time Cup champions that had the number in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then we got an original 6 showdown between the Montreal Canadiens and the New York Rangers at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got the Detroit Red Wings in the city of brotherly love taking on the Philadelphia Flyers at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got the CBJ Columbus Blue Jackets taking on the Carolina Hurricanes in a Metropolitan Division showdown at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Blue Jackets need this win more than the Hurricanes do. It's going to be a huge 2 points in this one between these two teams. We'll see who comes out on top. We got another Metropolitan Division showdown between the Washington Capitals and the New Jersey Devils at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. That game will air on Hulu and ESPN Plus for you guys to watch. Capitals just 3 points out of a playoff spot. We'll see if they get the win tonight over the New Jersey Devils, over Olympic gold medalist Jack Hughes and the New Jersey Devils. And speaking of which, what about that goalie fight from the other night between Jacob Markstrom and Igor Shesterkin? That's the third goalie fight this season. Of course, we had Sharks Panthers, Sergei Bobrovsky versus Alex Nedeljkovic, and then we had that epic Stadium Series goalie fight between Jeremy Swayman and Andrei Vasilevsky, and now the fight between Jacob Markstrom and Igor Shesterkin, the Hudson River rivalry, Devils and Rangers. So I really enjoyed that. I never seen 3 goalie fights in just one season before. That is crazy. It's been a crazy, surprising season already. But anyways, we got a Central Division showdown between the Winnipeg Jets and the Dallas Stars at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got the Vancouver Canucks, Quinn Hughes' former team, taking on the Minnesota Wild at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got the Connor Bowl. The Connor Bowl in this one. Chicago Blackhawks taking on the Edmonton Oilers at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Connor Bedard versus Connor McDavid. 2 number 1 overall picks going at it. Connor McDavid getting drafted by the Oilers first overall in 2015. Connor Bedard getting drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks first overall in 2023. And not to mention, the Oilers have another Connor Murphy, former Chicago Blackhawks defenseman, in this one. So, got a lot of Connors in this matchup. And then a non-Connor who used to play for the Blackhawks in this one, Jason Dickinson, another former Blackhawk in this one. Pretty sure he's helping out with the penalty kill unit for the Edmonton Oilers. He played that role during his time on the Blackhawks. He was a bottom 6 player. But anyways, other games, we got a Pacific Division showdown between the Calgary Flames and the Vegas Golden Knights at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got the Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the San Jose Sharks at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then we got another critical game today. Utah Mammoth taking on Seattle Kraken at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then probably another big game tonight. A huge 2 points in this one. Out in L.A., the West Coast, the Nashville Predators and the L.A. Kings. Final game of the night. Big game of the night. Huge 2 points for either one of these teams. Coming on at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to follow the Hockey Talk TG Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our radio episodes coming out every Tuesday and Thursday from 1:30 p.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time, and then 2:30 p.m. 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. But hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. Hopefully you have a great weekend. Keep God first as always. Be blessed. This is the final 2 weeks of the regular season. Games are going to be necessary to win. Points are going to be necessary to get. Lots of playoff implications in these final 2 weeks of the regular season. Can't wait for playoff hockey. I can't wait for it. We'll see what happens. We'll see who gets in, who's not. And we will talk about this all on the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Yeah, hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you guys all back here on Tuesday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Take care.